Now let's begin. At first, our representative of this project, Professor Ito of Ibaraki University, will declare the opening of this session. Professor Ito, please.
Okay, hello everyone. Can you hear me? Thank you very much for your coming. And we are very pleased to have this session with you all. And I'd like to make a short speech at the beginning of this session. Just a moment. ちょっとこれ邪魔になってますよね。大丈夫ですか？画面の表示。
大丈夫です。
大丈夫ですか？はい。Okay, thank you very much for your coming again, and maybe good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, depending on your area living in the world. Okay. Anyway, thank you. And our title is sharing adaptation lessons, sharing interlocal adaptation lessons in East and Southeast Asia. My name is Ito Tetsuji. I'm a social psychologist at Ibaraki University. And at the same time, I'm working in GLEC, Global and Local Environment Co-Creation Institute at our university. And I'm a social scientist or humanities scientist. So I want to emphasize humanities and social sciences are as important as natural sciences. And this is outline. Please read it. And so far, for 4 years, we were building a good network, especially including Vietnam, Japan, and the Philippines, and Thailand, and Indonesia, and China, or Myanmar. Yeah. So we have just published one book. This book, Interlocal Adaptations to Climate Change in East and Southeast Asia. Today, I want you to know this book, and this is we have just published from Springer, and you can access this book because it is a open access book. You can get it all the contents. It's all is free. So please access this URL and get it. And please read it. But before that, in this session, you can know the outline of this book or our idea on this book. Yeah, this is the outline of our network. And last year, we organized an international workshop online successfully. And this is also the outline of GLEC, our institute in our university. And our key concept is interlocal. This is a not so popular word in English, but we think it is very important one. The emergence of environmental problems does not necessarily spread uniformly globally, and differs depending on the locality, such as countries or regions. Therefore, what is needed is think interlocally. That means connecting the localities, connecting the dots. At the same time, we want to act interlocally. We can connect the localities, connecting dots, which makes points into lines, and then make them into planes. And finally, construct three-dimensional objects like this. Now we are living in Ibaraki Prefecture in Japan, and this is Hanoi, the capital city of Vietnam. If we connect the dots, we can make the line, okay? And then another dot, for example, Manila in Philippines, we can make a plane. And then Phuket in Thailand, we can construct the three-dimensional dimensional objects. We believe that interlocal sharing lessons will bring us truly useful practical knowledge. What does global warming bring to our society? In many aspects, we have received the effect from the global warming. Not only the natural environment, but also culture and politics and economics and so on. So we have to use we have to pay attention to the many aspects of the global warming like this. This is an example. As you know, the cherry blossom, sakura, is a very symbolic flower in Japan. Now it is the season of sakura opening. Cherry blossom blooms in Tokyo or everywhere in Japan. And this news shows that the average flowering date of the cherry blossom is gradually getting earlier year by year. For example, in 1980s, the average day is 29th March, 1990s, 26th March, 2000, 22nd, 2010, 22nd, and the last 10 years, 20th March. So that means getting earlier and earlier. The spring is warmer and warmer. Maybe that is affected by the global warming. And I want to show you the one local voice, grassroots voice. This is a voice of a part-time farmer. Please listen to his voice. Oh, can you see it?
We cannot hear you, the voice.
Sorry, just a moment, please. Let me share again. Very sorry.
.これが今私が作っている玉ねぎなんですけれども、この玉ねぎの種を植えたのは15年前は9月の1日だったんですけれども、今は9月の15日ぐらいに種をまかないと、この玉ねぎが死んだちしてしまって品物にならないと。これも地球の温暖化なのかなというふうに思います。
Okay, thank you very much for your listening. And this is the Japan map of Japan. And 11 years ago, we had a great earthquake. Maybe as you know, at that time we had not only earthquake but also big tsunami, and even we have the atomic power plant accident. And 2.5 years ago, one big typhoon. And that was called typhoon number 19, or internationally it is called Hagibis, attacked in the same area. And this is one picture I took near my university that was flooded severely. And this is another voice, one officer of the small town in Ibaraki Prefecture. Please listen to his voice.
はい、茨城県大子町役場総務課の稲川と申します。こちらの大子町には、町の中心に、南北に流れる、久慈川という大きな河川がございます。令和元年の、台風19号では、こちらの河川が、記録的な豪雨により増水しまして、町全体で、多くの家屋が浸水するなど、甚大な被害を被りました。大子町では以前から、河川の増水による水害というものはあったんですが、以前は、10年に一度ぐらいの割合と感じておりました。ところが近年、こちらが、2、3年に一度、 最近では毎年のように、何かしらの、水害が発生しております。考えてみますと、こういったことは、地球温暖化による気象変動が原因なのではないかと、感じております。また、こちらは中山間地域でございますので、夕立という、夏場は夕立という、現象が、起きているわけなんですが、最近がこの夕立がそれにとどまらず、ゲリラ豪雨となりまして、急激な河川増水によりまして、避難情報を出すことがたびたびございます。こういった、気象変動、もしくは突発的な、気象の、状況の悪化に伴う、対応ということが、私たちの今後の課題と考えております。迅速な避難、早期の避難、気象情報の把握、そういったことに迅速に対応していけるように、していきたいと考えております。はい、
Okay, thank you very much for your listening. And maybe you can understand what he said. And again, I want to emphasize the importance of interlocal. We have to listen to the local voice, and we have to focus on the locality. But not only that, we have to connect them interlocally. Okay, in this session, let's discuss about it. This is the contents of this session. Okay, thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Ito. So let's move on to the presentation session. The first presenter is Associate Professor Makoto Tamura from Ibaraki University and Vietnam Japan University. So Professor Tamura, please start.
Thank you very much. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ishikawa, for the introduction to me. And thank you very much for your attendance. I am Makoto Tamura from the Ibaraki University, and also that I'm working in the VNU, Vietnam Japan University in Hanoi. So first of the presentation, I'd like to show some of the overview of interlocal adaptation lessons in Southeast and Southeast Asia as for the background for the whole this session.
Tamura Sensei, now you are muted.
I'm sorry that so as you know that climate change is evident. So world temperatures and also that some of the countries, including these presented today, Japan, Philippines, Vietnam, you see that some of the temperature rise in 100 years or among 10 years, decades. So yes, that is one of the evidence for us. And you can see the key risk and adaptations, which based on the publication of IPCC 6, which just published in this February. So as you see, there are several types of the key risk among the East Asians and Southeast Asians. For example, the floods or sea level rise or some of the water resource management, water resource problems. As you see, there are several key risks are identified. And in order to adapt, there are several progress for adaptations, including institutional or infrastructure, ecosystem, and behavioral adaptation. This is some example of the IPCC evaluation among the East and Southeast Asia. So to some extent, for example, China's infrastructure adaptations can be implemented. However, it's some others is not so enough, and of course that behavioral adaptation is very difficult to evaluate right now. So we have just published one of the open access books, so-called Interlocal Adaptation to Climate Change in Southeast Asia, which consists of the 10 chapters, 9 columns, and the 35 authors from the 6 countries joined this book publication. And this was just published in this January. And as I checked today, more than 8,500 downloaded already. So I hope you can enjoy this book. So what is the aims of the research and our activities? So as I mentioned, impacts of climate change are very serious and diverse in East and Southeast Asia. And climate adaptation should be conducted depending on local conditions, because risk is the components of the hazards, exposures, and vulnerability. So it is very depending on some of the local conditions. So, and however, lack of perception and inadequate countermeasures too. So science-based adaptation, such as impact assessment and projection, has not been fully utilized. And also, local lessons and indigenous knowledge should be developed interlocally, as Professor Ito mentioned. So one of the main objectives is to share the good local lessons from each area in each field. So I suppose there's main 2 approaches for the adaptation. One is a scientific approach from the climate projection, downscaling, the impact assessment, and making adaptation planning. Another way is a regional approach from the emergence of and understanding the impacts and verification the existing policies and understanding the local stakeholders and adaptation planning. So both of them are needed. And however, sometimes there are some gaps between them. So to fill the gap between these 2 approaches, there are several approaches for filling the gap, I think. One is that today's interlocal lessons which should be shared. And another type is that institutional arrangement. I'd like to also show the local climate change adaptation centers activities in Japan. So we are doing the sum of our Asian Pacific, indigenous, East and Asia Pacific networks among the adaptation science, as Professor Ito mentioned. In the book, there are several examples of impact in adaptation. I think the later Professor Orland will more talk about the Philippines impacts, such as flooding and agriculture, and also she will introduce some of their design for the decision support system for the disasters and flooding. And another thing is Indonesia's coastal management or Indonesians' agricultural activities or water resource management. So this is just a snapshot of the book. So if you are interested, please read through the book. And this is another example for in Japan for the disaster risk reduction activities. Left side shows that disaster risk reduction from the tsunami or earthquake evacuation, and right side is a so-called my timeline. It's one of the disaster drill for flooding. So there are several types of impacts and adaptation and discussed in the book. So mainly we can divide agriculture and natural resource management and disaster risk reduction and dividing by the 2 matrix impacts and adaptation. So from the water scarcity or crop productions or ecosystem service depression among forest acreage and forest fishery resources in the agricultural national resource management or disaster risk management, sea level rise or subsidence and so on. It is also that so there are several types of impacts, and of course, adaptation can be diverse. So we need to share some of the lessons from each impacts and adaptation, and we can learn from the good results. So I also put some of the some lessons around in the books, but dividing the two parts: agriculture and resource management and disaster risk reductions, because time is limited, so that I will skip it. Last part, I like to also mention about the institutional arrangement of Japan as for the adaptation. So in 2018, Climate Change Adaptation Act was enacted. So, and Ibaraki universities also established the local climate adaptation centers from 2019. This is one of the very unique activities for the Climate Change Adaptation Act in Japan, because we published firstly established in the university LCCAC. Normally, local climate change adaptation centers are set by the local municipality or local research institutions, but we made it in the university. So we are aiming for the bridging the science and the communities and using that education and the research activities. So this is one of the schematic illustration for how to promote our adaptation. So we multiply by that research activities and education and social implementation. Normally, university is good at education and research, but we also need to involve the social implementation for the
Sorry, Tamura
adaptation.
sensei, we cannot hear you.
え、
Now it's okay.
どっからずっと
ここからです。このページから。
So we need to bridge the education and research activities. So as also that IPCC report proposed in this. So now we are the time change the mindset to recognize our risk as a climate risk, to be more positive words like climate resilient development. So of course, climate change impact is very, very serious issues, but we also need to consider how to overcome, how to make an opportunity for enhance the better climate resilient development in the future. So let us summarize the reasons. So because time is limited, I don't say again, but yes, thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you very much. Now we would like to have the Q&A session. So if you have any questions regarding the presentation of Associate Professor Tamura, please raise your hand or write your comment or question in the Q&A box or chat box. Everything is okay. And at the discussion session, we will also have a Q&A session again. So if after the presentation, if you come out some kind of questions, please write in a chat box or Q&A box. And later, we will talk about your questions. If you don't have any questions, let me move on to the next presenter, but is it okay? Okay, so let's move on to the next presentation. Next presenter is Dr. Nguyen Van Quan from Vietnam Japan University MCCD program. Dr. Quan, are you okay? Are you ready?
Yes, thank you very much, Professor Ishikawa. So let me share my presentation today. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry that I cannot share the the PowerPoint file. Could you allow me to share the file, please?
I think now you can share. Please try it again.
Oh, yes, I can do it now. Thank you very much. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see my screen now?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry for my late. Yeah. So thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and good evening. And I would like to present my research here. And as Tamura Sensei already presented about the overview of the book, but this is only one case study in Vietnam. So I hope that you can enjoy my presentation. So the topic of my presentation is the effect of climate change and the natural disaster on the mangrove forest in the Xuân Thủy National Park and propose adaptation solution for the mangrove forest. So let me give some brief information about myself. My name is Nguyễn Văn Quang. You can call me Quang, and now I'm working at the lecture at the master program in climate change and development at the Vietnam Japan University. And my research interest including the climate change and disaster risk assessment, flooding modeling, and applied GIS and remote sensing, and sustainable development and resilience. And let me give you some introduction about the Xuân Thủy National Park. And Xuân Thủy National Park is located in the Giao Thủy district, Nam Định province in Vietnam. And this is the first Ramsar site in Southeast Asia. And the most of core zone area is the mangrove forest, about 25.4 square kilometer. So you see on the map on the right side here, with the green color showing the mangrove forest, and in the dark blue color here is the ocean, and the yellow color showing the aquaculture field that the local people depend on. Yes. So I may give you some more activity about this in next slide. And this park is very high biodiversity areas with the home of the many and habitat of many species. In this table, you saw that I can show you that there are more than 200 bird species and more than 200 plants and other species. So showing that it's very high biodiversity areas. And many of these species are rare, especially nine endangered birds leading IUCN red list from the threatened species that have been recorded in this area. So this slide showing some of the photo in this park. You see that this photo on the left side showing the migratory birds. These birds they move from China into this park in Vietnam is about in the winter. Yeah. And on the right side here showing the mangrove forest. That's over there is the ocean, and they have some canal to connect between the forest. And our program, every year we conduct a field survey in this area with our master students. So we check the status of mangrove forest every year, and we also conduct some interviews with the local people and in this area. And this park, they also have livelihood inside the Xuân Thủy National Park. You see that on the top photo here showing the clam farming how. And also they also have a shrimp farming how. So this is a very big conflict between for the economic development for the local area, and as well as for the forest protection, because so that very big question for local government to meet the two demand for these areas. And this slide showing about the climate change and natural disaster challenges in the area. The graph showing the global temperature change. Yeah, so you can see that if we don't have a good action about the climate change mitigation, global temperature change could be exist 1.5 degrees C by 2040. Yes, so we have in fact with many serious problem. Yeah, and a challenge if we regarding the climate change and natural disaster in the future, if we don't have a good action for the climate change mitigation. And through the static data plot with the interview result conducted by our students at in these areas, the local people answer that the number of the and intensity typhoon and extreme hot day have been increased in recent years. So this area also showing that the evidence of the effect by the climate change and natural disaster. And this is a slide showing the sea level issue. And you know that sea level right now have increased significantly, since 1992, but now still continue to in the future. As the Suntree National Park is located in the low elevation coastal region in this Nam province, so this park is also at risk from the sea level rise. So this slide showing the impact of the climate change and natural disaster in this area. So we visit this area last year, and I with this photo taken by our student, and you can see that due to the impact of the climate change, sea level rise, and other natural disaster, the mangrove forest have been degraded. You see, the mangrove were the kin or the depth by the coastal erosion and way that we took the photo in this area. And this slide showing the impact of sea level rise. And this is the research I did in 2 years ago, with the sea level rise modeling. And you can imagine that in the future, if the sea level rise increase 1 meter, so they're about 5.3 square kilometer, or 21% of the total mangrove forest could be submerged by the seawater. And what happened if the 2 meter sea level rise and about more than the 22.3%, I mean more than half of the mangrove forest in this area could be submerged. And you know that the mangrove forest cannot survive if fully submerged by the seawater for 20 hours per day. So it means that in the future, there's about 20 or 30% of the mangrove forest could be disappear if we don't have any planning for relocation and for protecting this mangrove forest. And this slide showing some adaptation and other action have been done for the Suntree National Park. And this we showing some photo with our students to visit this area 2 years ago and last year, showing that the new mangrove tree have been planted, just maybe for a year in this area, and and some developed sustainable livelihood, new mode of shrimp farming. Yeah, so you see on the left side here, and some of the farmers they had
Sorry,
applied.
Kwan Sensei, we cannot
Yeah.
hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Now
Maybe-
it's okay. Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, and on the left side here, showing some of the farm fields that the local people already applied some new technology and some new model for the streaming. So that means the people don't depend more in the mangrove forest resources, or they don't put more the pressure on the mangrove forest. And the picture on the right side here showing that one of the activity from NGO that they organize in the local committee office to raise awareness of local people to understand about the rule of the mangrove forest for the climate change adaptation and respond to climate change natural disaster. So a lot of local people enjoy this activity. Yeah. So that is some of the actions that have done in that area, but still has some things that we need to propose. So this slide showing some of the proposed adaptation solution for protecting mangrove forest in the Sunti National Park. And Casurina tree, you see that tree on the left side here, photo here, should be planted extensively on the sand dune outside the mangrove forest to protect mangrove from the cotton erosion, storm wave, and sea level rise. So this the map on right side here. So you see the red arrow showing some location that we should plant this tree to protect the mangrove forest from the storm, erosion on the way, yes, or typhoon, the hit in that area. And another proposal is about some depth mangrove that I showed you before, the mangrove species that more resistant to the effect of the extreme weather and natural disasters should be planted to replace about decreased mangrove forest or planted on the bare land. And the next one is long-term strategy and plan prepared by local government and leader of the park in relocating and expanding mangrove forest to the high elevation area in order to adapt with the effect of sea level rise on the other disaster need. And I show you the slide before that, maybe from 20 to 50% of the mangrove forest could be disappear in the future. So the local government and should think about the plan for relocation of the habitat or some area to protect the mangrove forest to the high elevation in the future. And there's some lesson learned and key conclusion for my presentation. And I mentioned that this is only one case study for the research in the areas. The mangrove ecosystem in the park are threatened by the climate change and natural disaster. And large area of mangrove forest could be disappear in the future by sea level rise. And some adaptation and other action have been done. However, more strategy, plan, adaptation, and action are needed for sustainable development of mangrove forest in this area. So that's all for my presentation, and I'm very happy if you have any question and comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kwan Sensei. And I'm so sorry because my Wi-Fi connection was bad and your speech, everyone could listen to your speech. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Now I would like to open to the Q&A session. And if you have any questions, please raise your hands or write in the Q&A box. And while you are writing, may I ask a question? Kwan Sensei?
Yes, please. Yes.
At the map of the Southea National Park, maybe it's sea level rise in case of 2 meter or 1 meter, I think.
Yes.
And sorry, I think I missed your point, but when is that a projection? And when is the time? I think it would be 2100 or around so.
Yes. So yeah, and I mentioned in at the end of the slide that by the end of this century, actually we buy on some scenarios, but some worst scenarios that because there are some scenarios, some worst scenarios say the maximum 2 meter, but some lower medium they said like less than 1 meter. So I just make like 2 scenario, 1 or 2, in case of by the end of this century. But actually there are several scenarios, but I just propose for 2 scenarios to understand about what happened in future if the sea level increase to 1 or 2 meters. So it's about 20 or 50% of that mangrove forest could be disappear. So that's very good question for the local government for for adapting with the sea level rise in future to protect the habitat or the mangrove forest for this area. Yeah.
I see. And did you use the RCP scenario?
Yes. Actually, in my paper, I reviewed some scenario like from the regional climate change model and also the global scenario. But I did not mention here. But yes, so in here I just present results. Yes, about what happened. It look like two way here.
Okay, thank you very much. And I have one more question. And I'm not sure as a case of the Vietnam, but in the case of Japan, basically strong typhoon is coming in August or summer season or October, fall season. But how about Vietnam? Is it same?
I think
Summer or autumn?
I think that's the I think that Vietnam every year, but yes, they come from I think from August to until the December.
Until December.
Yeah, sometime in November, not December, but mainly they focus from. I don't understand my background. I see that from in the August to the November or October, November. Yes, I think so. Maybe some part are similar in Philippines, but most of typhoon pass through Philippines to hit in Vietnam. Maybe a professor from Philippines may have more background. That thing. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And from the floor, do you have any questions or comments? Okay, so at the discussion session, please raise your hands or write your comments or questions in the chat box or Q&A. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kwan Sensei. So next presenter is Professor. Thank you. So next presenter is Professor Orlando Valderrama from the Philippines, Isabela State University. So could you start your presentation?
Thank you, Professor Ishikawa, and greetings from the Philippines to our colleagues and students who are attending this conference right now. It's, I'm pleased to present to you this paper entitled Climate Change Adaptation Practices Towards Sustainable Watershed Management, the case of one watershed in Ilagan City, Philippines. I hope my audio and is clear and you can see the slide right now. So as a kind of self-introduction, I'm presently a professor at the College of Engineering. I'm an agricultural engineer by profession and also the Vice President for Research and Development. So these are some of my ongoing project, especially in relation to the topic that I'm presenting. One is a very important project funded by ADB on climate change risk and adaptation, restoration of assessment in Cambodia, Myanmar, and Philippines. I also have a project on integrated flood and sediment management in ASEAN river basins for sustainable development in partnership with Kyoto University and Tuy Loy and Da Nang University in Vietnam, and is also supported by APN, Asia Pacific Network, and JASTIP, Japan ASEAN Science Technology Innovation Platform. And I'm also working on mainstreaming good practices of IWRM in river basins in watershed, and also a very important project on water security in river basins. So I have my bachelor's degree in engineering at Isabela State University, a master's degree in engineering at Asian Institute of Technology, and a PhD and a postdoc studies at the University of Tokyo. So as a background, I'd like to share that I highlighted here in red font the the context of the study. It was conducted in Isabela province, one of the biggest province in the Philippines, in the city of Ilagan, which is considered the corn capital of the Philippines. It's a very important crop in the country. And another context is that the climate change context, in which the outlook of climate change, according to our weather agency, is that by 2050, there will be an increase of around 2 degrees Celsius in temperature, and a 29 or almost 30% decrease in rainfall for dry months. That means during the month of January, February, March, and April. And also an increase in rainfall during the wet months, during the months of September, October, November, up to December. And the local government units, local government units are given the mandate by law to be the forefront agency in addressing disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation in their respective localities. So you can see in the map the location of the study area, northeast part of the Philippines, and it's in a watershed where there's a natural park called the Northern Sierra Madre Natural Park. And this is a mosaic of land use. There's an agriculture, there's also forest, primary, secondary forest, and so on. So, and in this locality, about 31% of the area are being farmed with corn crop. So this is the framework of adapting to climate change. So I think this is a very common framework where we can feel and we can it's very clear that there will be decrease in rainfall, there will be increase in temperature that would affect the farmers in making decision. I think that the two main concern of the farmer is the timing of the planting, especially for the rain-fed farmer, because as mentioned, there will be a shift of rainfall pattern. There will be more drought period during the dry season, and there will be more flooding during the wet season. That's one, and the other one is the cultivar, the best cultivar to use by the farmer, kind of a climate adaptive corn cultivar. So from here, one very important adaptation solution is we provide the government, of course, provide the seasonal climate forecast, and this forecast will be coupled with track models. And with this very important strategy, our farmers will be guided on the selection of the best variety, and as well as the best timing for corn cultivation. Okay, in this paper, I would like to present and discuss activities, institutional arrangement, and policy outcomes, innovations in the use of the ICT, mobile technologies, and remote sensing that would enhance the resiliency of communities and watershed ecosystem against natural disasters and climate change by applying tools and technologies in aid of evidence-based policymaking and plant operation. So these are the basic strategies that we employed. We also can call it the methodology. So the first set of methodology is we implemented activities in the community level. Second is from those demonstration, we try to convince the city government officials on the effectiveness of these tools and practices so that they can be upscaled or it could be implemented in a bigger scale. And then development of a policy so that these practices will be legalized and will be upscaled officially. So these are the activities related to flood risk mitigation because as mentioned by Professor Tamura, our key concern for the adaptation and mitigation are the flood and drought. So for the flood risk mitigation, of course, we have installed with automated weather station to monitor these climate changes, topographic mapping and flood simulation, and also vulnerability mapping and barangay disaster risk reduction management planning. For the drought risk mitigation, provision of domestic water supply, crop modeling for corn, especially the impact of drought for corn production, and also the text blast of daily weather forecast. For the policy level activities on the level of the city council, the use of land use maps, flood vulnerability assessment and mapping, downscaling of GCM and impact modeling, farmers decision support system, and the local climate change adaptation plan. That is in the chapter 2 of this LCCAP document that is being approved every year. So here are some of the output of the project, of the intervention that we did. The development of flood maps before and after flood risk maps. So we have these high resolution maps, 0.5 meter resolution. So we developed maps for the flood vulnerability of the in the built-up areas, and also in the watershed, in the corn areas. And then we developed a decision support system. You can see the architecture, and here you can see 3 pictures. One is the architecture of the DSS, where we use the DSAT and we automate the DSAT for each farmer. We get the input forecast of climate from NOAA, is a agency database, and then to communicate the result of the modeling, we developed this DSS, SMS-based DSS, so that the farmers can inquire and can acquire the inquiry, the answers of their inquiry in their cell phone. So here in this part of this picture is the screenshot for the crop calendar that we developed for each farmer. And so these are the questions that the farmer can ask using their SMS. And then these are some of the validation that we did for the farmers that we interviewed, and they expressed that because of this intervention, the use of DSS, overall their yield or income has increased by around 25%. And this is also one of the results of the modeling that we present to the Department of Agriculture and the local government, the effect of climate change for 2020 and 2050 for corn production in Isabela. Also, the monitoring of crop growth using NDVI. This is the remote sensing application that we also introduced. And then the policy outcomes, resolutions, because of the evidence-based demonstration, the City Council were able to convince to issue a resolution, legislation, a city legislation to for the adoption of all these recommendation from the study that we conducted. So this is the copy of the resolution, and we also conducted a series of stakeholder forum so that we can communicate our message. I think risk communication is very important, communicating to the stakeholders through a stakeholder forum. So the key message, climate change, and increasing intensity of natural disasters add to the complexity of issues faced by small farmers. And the city LGU was able to recalibrate and fine-tune local climate change action plans and the RM plans. The project demonstrated use of innovative ICT-enabled technologies that can help modernize the agricultural sector, and the potential of the precision agriculture and an enabling policy environment in the ICT sector will inspire the development of applications for the benefit of agriculture and small farmers. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Professor Orlando Valderrama. And now I'd like to invite the comments or questions from the floor. And do you have any comments or questions? Please raise your hands or write in a Q&A box. I think many people are writing or preparing the questions. So may I ask some questions? Okay, Kwan Sensei, please.
Yes. First one, thank you very much, Professor Orlando, for very nice presentation. And I'm very interested for the decent support system for agriculture in Philippines. I think that's a very nice system and model that's very useful right now. So my question is, as you said that the system can provide information for the farmer through the mobile system, right? So does the local people have to pay money for this service, or is that free of charge?
During the project implementation, it was free of charge, but we computed and we did some economic, analysis, because we cannot. Although perhaps the local government unit or government agency can, provide the money, but we don't like to, develop this kind of dole-out mentality to the farmers. So we did some economic analysis on the benefit, the return of investment if they will invest, because they just have to invest a little money, because they usually these farmers have their own cell phones, so they just have to invest on the load. So we show them that with the increase of the the yield or the income, it's worth investing, a little. So the answer is that at the very start, the project shouldered the load, the subscription. But after the project, we already encouraged them to pay for their the subscription of their this SMS. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. If possible, you can make one more question. Sorry, because I see that
Sure.
the share information, it may in slide maybe small letter, I cannot see well, but what kind of information from system to provide? Is it including like the forecasting the information, so the farmer can buy on that to change their farming activity to adapt with the climate situation?
Yeah, from the start, we have to ask the farmers, how much fertilizer are they willing to use for their farm, and what variety they will use in their mind, and as well as the date of planting. And when they share this, we provide the scenarios. So if they will use only 10 bags of fertilizer, they will plant this date, and they will use this cultivar, and then this will be the result of their, they will have the farming calendar, and this will be the yield, and they're going to harvest on this particular date. But if we show them different scenarios, for example, the best time to plant, the best variety, and the optimal amount of fertilizer, I think they will think twice. They know what will be the outcome of their decision. So of course we have to give them the freedom to do what they want to do, but at least they know from this intervention the result of their decision. So and then maybe they change. Some of them will change their date of planting. They will have to buy a better yield, a better cultivar, and they may use more fertilizer, something like that.
Yes, thank you very much, Professor.
Did I answer your? Yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
I'm happy you answer. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And we have one question from the Q&A. I will read this. Thank you so much for your presentation. Could you please let me know the data sources? As you mentioned, it is 0.5 meter resolution.
Yeah, thank you. LiDAR, right? These are LiDAR maps. So in 2015, there was a big project in the Philippines on LiDAR mapping in the whole Philippines. So we use those high-resolution maps for this particular project. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Islam, Mr. Islam, is it okay? I think he answered your question. Okay, thank you very much. I think it's almost time. So all presenter could present very wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. So now let's move on to the discussion session. From now, I would like to pass, I think Kotera Sensei will facilitate the discussion. So please.
Thank you very much, your introduction, Isuka Sensei. Hello, everyone. Now I'd like to start the discussion session now. I'm Kotera from Ibaraki University, who will moderate this session. But before starting this discussion, we have a video clip I'd like to introduce with you. At this Gobeshona conference, they place great emphasis on listening to local voices. We also feature those grassroots voices in this session. So now please watch a video clip for your viewing pleasure. Isuka Sensei, please
Thank you very much.
open video clip.
Can you see this video?
Okay.
I'm sharing. Okay. So I will start. Is it possible? Can you hear the voice?
No, I cannot.
Oh, really?
音声を一緒に共有すると
そうですよね。
と。
はい、そうですよね。ちょっと待ってあれ、音声を共有するってどこに
最初共有するときに。
共有するときですね。一回じゃあ切ります。はい。
Can you change the volume more louder in the
OK。
movie application?
あ、これだ。
気温が
寒かった。
キャベツも白菜も大
聞こえ
根も
ますか？
なんで？
Okay.
雨が3ヶ月降らなくて
はいはいはい。
マイナスが1月に入って4週間続いたから
マイナスっていうのは気温が
気温が
寒かったっていうこと。
ああ雪は全然降らない。雪はいくら降っても関係ないんだよね。あったかいから。
なるほど。
気温が常に最低気温がマイナス1度からマイナス4度の間でずっと来たから、
うん。
もうこれでそら豆もサヤエンドウも育ちがもう極端に悪くなってほとんど一旦枯れたんだよ。これ枯れたやつがもう一回芽を出してまあリバイバルだ。
なるほど。普通だったらもっと大きい。
普通だったらもっとでかい。あそこ
そうだよね。
の
もうだって4月になるもんね。
だいたい5月に
うん。
取れるんで、
はいはい
あれはハウス見れば
あ
ハウスの奥の方にまだ生きてるやつ
あ。
が
あ
ある。
はい。終わりです。
Okay, thank you very much, Ishikawa sensei. It is surprised that the person who appeared in this video clip is also joining this webinar here. So I think it is good opportunity. I'd like to ask a live message from him. Mr. Ishikawa.
Ishiwata.
Ishiwata, Mr. Sorry, Mr. Ishiwata, are you here? Sorry, maybe the guests have.
Now I made him as a panelist. So could you open your video? Could you turn on the video and also unmute? Okay. Unmute, please.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ishiwata. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Giving me an opportunity to join this special program. I'm very happy to.
Kotera sensei, could you ask something?
Okay. So it is I think the video clip was recorded in winter season. So how about in this season, now spring season in Japan, the temperature is increase and increase.
Oh, yes, it is. We have a very big problem. I know the global warming is there, but the condition here, especially for winter, okay, summer is going hotter, but winter is getting colder and colder. This is a problem. Climate change is going on, but not in the regular course, but quite unexpected condition happens, especially in the winter. My area has never experienced the -degree condition for 10 years, but all of a sudden, starting from last year, it comes down to -4, even -6. Then all the harvest will be ruined. That was the big problem. Quite unexpected condition is there. What's so-called global warming is not going regularly. Quite irregular condition happen time to time. This is as a farmer, the big problem. And I heard the first part of this program, the onion farmer told that warming is there. That's why the onion has to plant maybe a week or 10 days earlier than before. However, if this is expected regularly, we can follow. However, the real condition is much more complicated, and things unexpected condition is that the colder and the winter is coming colder at the same time. Summer is coming hotter. This is our problem, and nobody tell us when and what kind of condition happens this winter. That is our problem.
Thank you very much. Yeah, your great messages. Ishikawa sensei, do you have any follow-up for his voice?
Follow-up? Follow-up. Sorry. Now. I got a photograph from the from him, and let me share. This is a photo of the cabbage field, and because of the cold winter and the difference, as he mentioned, during the daytime was big, so difference become bigger, so cabbages were rotted. And in the neighbor field of this field, where another farmer is growing cabbage have died. So I've got this photo from him. So, okay. And I think Professor Valderrama will have some kind of comments because he is very familiar with these kind of topics.
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Sir Kineki Ishikawa for sharing those information and EBGS. Yeah, I think the equivalent situation in the Philippines is that the temperature is getting hotter during dry season, and also rainfall is also getting smaller, and there's a shift of rainfall distribution actually, and that's a big problem. In the Philippines, I think the problem would be for the rain-fed. 30% of our farmers in the Philippines are, rain-fed farmers. So if there's a shift, and actually the outlook is 30% of rainfall will be lesser during the dry season, in which this part of the year is the very sensitive part, this flowering and harvesting. So it's really a disaster for our farmers with these very evident changes in the climate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. And thank you very much, Mr. Ishiwata, for your great real messages. We appreciate your contribution to our session. And please send him the big hands. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So now again, in this discussion session, we will address with focusing on interlocal adaptation, which is introduced as a key concept of our activity from Professor Ito at the beginning of today's session. So now time is limited. So I'd like to ask everyone participating in this session, if you have any questions or comments, please fill in the Q&A box that you can see at the bottom of the Zoom window, or raise your hand. We are waiting for your positive feedback. And now we'd like to discuss the interlocal adaptation perspective. For example, such a question, what you could be learned from the case study each other introduced today? Or are there any adaptation case studies in other regions that would be useful for your region? What is missing point to solve the problem in your region? And what do you expect from other case studies? Or we can also provide the question to the speakers each other. So now for the floor, please put your opinion on the question in the Q&A box. And now I'd like to hear opinions and comments from the speakers first. Are you ready? So now let's begin with, how about Tamura Sensei? May I ask your opinion first?
Yeah, thank you very much for asking, and thank you for delivering the voice from the farmers, Mr. Iwata. Yes, yes, I'd like to share or pointed out that some of the commonality and differences among our presenters, including the Japan, the Philippines, and Vietnam. So For example, that today Dr. Kwan mainly mentioned about the activities for the research and education activities in the Vietnam Japan universities. So the activities at Shelter National Park is not only by the research activity, but also the educational part he is introducing. So the presentation was a kind of the product of the education and research activities. So I think some of the young generations can be the good future collaborators among the stakeholders. Yes, that is a strong point as for the educational, as for the role of the education and university. And yes, I'm also want the Philippines and about Dr. Oran's presentations. This is one impressions and also the comments for that. Yes, the activities in Yugan City is very, very comprehensive, including the many types of the ICT and also projection system, and also the many types of the remote sensing data. So it is very comprehensive. But I wonder, it is very good ones, but how to deliver to the other areas? So it must be a bit expensive for installing the other regions in other areas. So what is the barrier for that? So although it is very, very comprehensive, but it seems a bit difficult for us to imitate, for other regions to imitate the other areas. So in Japan, yes, we have some of the Climate Change Adaptation Act, which should be institutionalized for the adaptation. So that is of course, the climate change adaptation should be implemented by some of the stakeholders, but some of the institutional arrangement is also needed to continue to do such kind of effort. So of course, institutional means that some of the financial support is also can be given. So I think the both of the sides for the good lessons and how to continue to that adaptation is also the very important topic. So those are my impressions, some of the comment and question to the other speakers. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Dr. Kwon, do you have any opinion or comment?
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Kotira. And as you know, that the keyword of topic today is interlocal adaptation. And the climate change issue, and now it's not only in any region, but I mean the global issue. And even today we talk about regarding the East and the Southeast Asia, but we also share the same issue regarding climate change, like flooding, the extreme weather. But different location maybe the affected it maybe a little bit different. Like in Japan, that we already saw that they have an impact like the cold weather in the winter, but in Vietnam and Philippines we have big problem with disaster in the summer during the autumn time with the typhoon. But you know, see that Professor Ito had mentioned earlier the map to see the connecting among those countries by the location point that we call like the internal adaptation. So we think about from those the case study we can learn for experience from the different case study, and we can share for those area to connect among those points. So I think that's very good keyword that today we can listen from the case study for each area or global issues in the Southeast Asia. So people can share knowledge, experience, or some adaptation solution could be adapted for our areas. I think that's very good lesson, a key message for today. So that only I can say for my comment. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kwan Sensei. Next, how about Orland Sensei, Professor Orland?
Thank you very much, Professor Kotira. Yeah, I have three maybe useful input in this discussion session. Number one is that considering that I think most of the presenter are from the academic, institution, so academic and research institution for that matter. There's that means that we are scientists and we look at the science side of the situation. And if you look at my presentation, we try to bridge the science side and the policy side. The policy side is the adaptation side. For the farmers and the local government, the players, and in between this science and policy spectrum, there must be a very effective communication. Tool like the conduct of a stakeholder forum, and also the proof of concept. The one that I presented, some of the pilot studies are we try to show proof of concept, that we develop in the laboratories in our modeling. So there's a need for that, so that our adapters will be convinced that this is really working. And the second thing is that in the Philippines, I don't know in Vietnam, students enrolling in agriculture and related courses are dwindling. Most of the young generation are getting away, from enrolling in agriculture. But if we introduce this, these technologies, these techniques like ICT, I think we have this, this concept that our young generation will become more interested, in enrolling in agriculture, because in agriculture we can also practice our hobby, of if they are IT hobbies, then they can practice in the agriculture. So that's one. Yeah, so I think those two very important points I would like to share. The implementation, a proof of concept, and also bridging between science and policy makers, and also how to attract more young generation enrolling and becoming agriculture expert in the future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Orland. So as he mentioned, the young generation or education is one of the key words in our interlocal adaptation. So now I found that there's some participant from young generation. So if you have some comment, I appreciate the question or comment from young generation. Ishikawa Sensei, do you have any opinion or comment?
For
To the speakers.
To the speakers?
Yes.
Oh, actually,
comment?
I have a question to Professor Valderrama, but is it okay?
Sure.
Because I was so surprised. Iragan City, maybe Isabela State, it was well organized and structured. But I think, as Tamura Sensei pointed out, other city maybe difficult to introduce this kind of smart ICT sector, and because it's very difficult to implement because it costs too much, but local farmers should want to get these kind of informations about agriculture that is related to the climate modeling, DSST. So, but how do you think how to implement in other cities or other areas?
Yeah, that was our main barrier before, because previous studies will only develop the model, and they don't even know how to, introduce it to the agricultural extensionists, because the models are, very difficult to understand, even, professionals. And how much more to the farmers? Most of the farmers they don't have a good education. But if you look at the architecture, we simplified the model to the point of they can just make use of their SMS, because every farmer, even if they are educated or less educated, they are able to use their their cell phones. So we make it a point that the communication is up to the level of the understanding of the farmers using the SMS. And of course, the model was already developed. The university can do the automation and everything. And what the local government will just adopt it. The package will be adopted. And I think from our lesson, the farmers could easily, of course, we need some training to the farmers and AAWs, but eventually the farmers can easily, benefit right away, directly from this DSS that we develop. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
very
I
much.
hope this application can be developed and open to the public, and all world farmer can use this application. The situation would get better, I think.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finally, I'd like to ask Ito Sensei's idea about interlocal adaptation. But before that, I'd like to introduce the two messages from the floor. On behalf of speakers, I'd like to read this message. Thank you so much for arranging a nice time and demanding seminar on interlocal climate adaptation activities. From last couple of months, I'm studying on mangrove forest sustainable management. So from this seminar, I learned some similar ideas and practical findings that can be implemented in the context of Bangladesh. Thank you very much. And then next message is, thank you so much for showing learnable practices. I haven't had question yet, but wait to download the book. Thank you very much. Yes, you can download freely our open books. But I have one comment that the interlocal approaches is really important at this moment when digital transformation and reshaped cooperation in the post-COVID have brought more soft power for motivating people for changes for sustainability, especially in climate change adaptation. Thank you so much. It's a good message. Ito Sensei,
Yes.
We also have lost no time, but could you conclude this session in your voice, by your voice?
Okay, thank you very much for your participating and discussion. It's a great time for us to know each other. And yes, Mr. Ishiwata, thank you very much. We really appreciate your contribution. Your voice is very important to us. And to tell us, Mr. Ishiwata is the father of Dr. Ishikawa, right? Yeah, thank you very much for your participating.
Thank you very much.
Yes, and I want to share my screen again. Our key concept is interlocal. And we have to investigate the phenomena of the global warming and climate change in one local or in one dot, but we have to connect them, and because the emergence of environmental problem does not necessarily spread uniformly, right? So we have to communicate with each other, and we have to learn each other. And of course, it is not so easy to learn each other, or it's not so easy to implement the others different areas adaptation. But we have to learn each other. So I have an idea. Of course, you can read our books, and you can access here. And I put this URL already in the chat box. Please access it. And then, if you are interested in our network, the Southeast Asia research-based network on climate change adaptation science, contact here. This is our contact email address, GLEC, and so on. And we are now organize monthly meeting on interlocal research on climate change. We want to start it from April next month. So please join us and let's share the interlocal knowledge and create a new idea, a new technology, a new something to develop our how can I say? Sorry, my English vocabulary is poor, but we want to take some action to the climate change step by step. So please join us. Today, thank you very much for your participating. I want to say thank you again to all the participants and to all the speakers and organizers. Thank you very much.